Hello, folks, and welcome in. Yes, you are looking live at the sportsbookview.com live roundtable weekly wrap-up show. Look at this esteemed panel that I have with me today. Jay Money, Ian Cameron, Teddy Sabransky. I'm Donnie Seymour. Let's have some fun today. We do a lot of shows that are taped behind the scenes. We bring out a lot of information, but these shows don't go on unless it's for you, the people in the chat box, and everybody supporting it. So we do say thank you. This is some nice relief for us to get around and talk and reach out to you guys as the chat box and the subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, you see that red subscribe button down low. Click that subscribe button each and every time we go live. You'll get that notification right to your box. Let's bring in the paddle first. We'll start with Jay Money, our NBA expert, and gotta say, the highest rated, I should say, show on the channel, Jamming with Jay Money. Jay, how we doing? We're live on a Friday, my man.
Yeah, it's like old times, man. Like old times, man. Good to see Teddy. Obviously, good to see you doing it. We've been doing the videos. Good to see my guy Ian Cameron as well, but Bono. So just glad to be back on camera, man. Obviously, been doing a lot of sitting at the house, playing video games with my son and stuff. Playing substitute teacher. Obviously, doing schoolwork on the helping my son with schoolwork online. So just been chilling at the house, man. Watching the old NBA games. Happy to get back on camera with you guys.
Now, you're exactly right about that, because right now on my two monitors, I'm watching right now the Seahawks and the Packers playoff game. Then the other one, we have the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks. A lot of stuff going on. Ian Cameron, let's bring you in. You've done a lot of videos with us, obviously, over the past couple of years, but on these roundtable videos, been specializing in the NHL and certainly an expert at that. Welcome in, and let's talk, and we'll have some fun today, Ian, for once.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. Live roundtable. We'll talk about a bunch of different things in the sports and sports betting world. Maybe it shows you how disappointing it is not to have any sports going right now, that I got incredibly wrapped up and totally psyched and into watching USC versus Texas last night, the Rose Bowl replay from 2006. One of the greatest college football games I've seen, and the legend Keith Jackson, whoa, Nelly, on the call for it as well. Vince Young, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, the top three Heisman Trophy candidates that year, playing in the same game in the national championship. I've seen that game a bunch of times, but I got into it again, and that's what that's what we're left with right now. Classic sports to get us through this.
No, Ian, it's a lot of reminiscing. Look, we have a lot of things covered here. East Coast for me, New Jersey, Ian being Canadian, the Dallas-Fort Worth area down there, and also Teddy out there in Las Vegas. Teddy, I want to bring you in as well, because you've been doing a lot of videos with us. It's fun just to keep it up, because even us in the industry, you don't see us out there handicapping a lot of stuff, but we're human beings as well, driving ourselves crazy. Sports are our love, Teddy. How are we getting through this right now here?
Look, this is the highlight of my day, okay? Yes. And I mean, I'm so used to being on air and talking and being able to express my opinions and be able to talk about teams and games and whatever, that when you lose that, I mean, there's a lot of what the heck do I do with myself? So, I've been trying to work college football. I worked 2 conferences in college football this week. I feel comfortable with that. At least with college football, we have a schedule that we can work and know these are what the opponents are supposed to be, whether the season gets played or not. At least I'm confident and comfortable in, like, okay, here's a schedule. NFL doesn't even have a schedule yet. So, and the NFL hasn't had the draft yet. So I haven't done really my focus early on has been college before NFL. And that's what I've been trying to do to keep myself busy, Donnie, is I can't watch USC Texas. I watched that game already. I lost a bet. They should have got the first down. Why'd they,
Lendale White, Teddy, come on.
Get it on those 4th and inches, man. All you got to do is pump it through.
Money.
I remember that from watching it live. I don't want to watch it again. The simulations, I haven't been betting the simulations. The marble racing, I haven't been betting the marble racing. I'm prepping myself for the next real games that we're going to have. I'm assuming we're going to see something this fall. College football is where my attention has been this week.
I think we're all waiting for that stuff. But again, because our day structures are a lot different. When I always like to say, normal life, there's a lot of people working hard for money or off of jobs right now, just trying to continue and pay bills. And we're the same way in that respect, because we're used to waking up and we have a lot of structure, Teddy. I know you're the same. Jay, you're the same. Ian, the same. We crack open that odds book early in the morning. We get started. We have our day filled out, where we have to do content, where we have our family ties. And now all of a sudden sort of thrown in a loop. Are any of you guys struggling at all with the day-to-day? Because I know over the first couple of days, I'm checking my phone, but now I'm starting to distance myself by that. I'm enjoying a little bit more downtime, but I still find myself clicking that button saying, where are these score updates? Anybody else like that, or is it just me?
Nah, I'm
It's
definitely like that, Donnie. I don't know why I keep going to it. I keep going to the same ones. I'm going to check the scores, knowing damn well they all postponed and canceled on there. I don't know why I keep going. I might have to delete the app or something, man. It's saddening myself. But I've always been a kind of a homer. But like you say, I mean, I started looking at the odds the night before, so it was just one of those things where I just got into a routine, wake up, do the show, and I miss doing the show, man. All the guys, you know what I'm saying, doing the show for all the guys in the chat box. I miss doing it with Teddy Jr., Jordan, all them guys, man. Miss everybody, man. I don't even get on Twitter as much because it was just all about sports to me, man. But yeah, nothing's really the same anymore. I must say. What about you, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's been difficult when you're used to doing the same thing at 9 a.m., the same thing at 10 a.m., the same thing at 11 a.m. for years. Like for years. I've actually been a quote-unquote handicapper for 8 years now, and Teddy can vouch for me. 2012 was Sports Memo starting there many, many years ago. And I've been at it for 8 years, and I've basically done the same routines daily. You know, do this at this time, or, you know, do your handicapping. I usually do some of my handicapping the night before. I don't do that now because there's nothing going on. And look, there's a herd of people on Twitter and other people that are all of a sudden getting themselves wrapped around Nicaraguan soccer, Belarus hockey, Belarus soccer. I can't be one of those people. Sorry, I can't. I can't name a player. I can't name a team. I've never watched any of it. I'm not going to pronounce myself as some quote-unquote expert in something I've never watched, never focused on, never even paid one little lick of attention to, and say that I know what I'm talking about and start betting that at this time. If I get tips from someone I know that follows the sport closely, I will bet it. But in terms of my own handicapping, yeah, it's on hold until we see NHL back. It's on hold till we see NBA back, college basketball, football, sports that I focus on year round. And altering the daily routine has been an adjustment without a doubt.
You know what's interesting about this, too, with these type of times that we have? Ian brings up a lot of good points because I see a lot of people out there. Look, for entertainment purposes, you could spend your money anywhere. You know, you can go to the movies, you can go to the casino and gamble. You can do a lot of different things, go out to eat, whatever it is. But I find myself, because I look up at my marker board and I have yet to erase it. My last wager placed was on the Syracuse team total over 72.5, which cashed in. I haven't had a wager in over 3 weeks. And I got to tell you, I'm not really bothered by it. Like, I don't need that daily action if Teddy brings up, like we see the marble races or the Madden simulation, but I don't downgrade. If you want to throw a couple bucks on that just because you're bored, that's your entertainment purposes. But for myself, and like Ian's talking about, I'll wait this out. I really enjoy betting on games that have an edge and seeing how they play out. I'm just not the type of guy that says, you know what, some two guys are playing Madden sim over like on YouTube. I'm going to get a wager on that, you know?
Yeah, it's not about the action. It's about the edge, you know? And that one of the biggest differences between many casual bettors and guys that do this day in, day out, year in, year out. Because there's never a shortage of action for us. Okay. You know, you're in action on a daily basis, year in, year out. In terms of the no action, hey, I haven't missed sweating games and losing them in the last minute. Haven't missed that at all. But all that said, all of us, and I don't mean to speak for you guys, but we are creatures of habit. People think, oh, you're a handicapper. You live this exciting lifestyle. No, you don't. All right. You watch the games, then you sit down and look at the next day's games. Then you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and boom, 7 o'clock. You got 8 o'clock. I mean, literally, we are creatures of habit. And to see all those like every habit that I have, all right, now what do I do? That first week, Donnie, I'll be honest, I was depressed as hell.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I couldn't get myself out of bed. I couldn't get myself moving. You know, I'm like, well, okay, you know, you just breathe. And maybe I'm exhaling for the first time in 20 years. But, and then the second week, I'm like, you got to start doing something. And, you know, I got a boy. I can't, you know, I got an 8-year-old, so I can't sit here and collapse completely. You know, all right, you're not going to curl up in the fetal position. Get up and do something. But that first week was a slap in the face. You know, it's like, wow. You know, and now this last week's been better. We've been doing stuff with this, you know, doing some shows and getting some work done on college football. So you feel like you're doing something productive. But initially, you know, I was thrown for a loop, man. It was like there was a gut punch followed by a good hook to the chin. You know, you feel it.
No, Teddy, you're definitely right, because when you take a look at something taken away, and look, I love to bet baseball. I really do. But we're not talking about taking the Major League Baseball season away from us like July 15th. Like, we were missing literally the best time in sports, and they shut the faucet off, which was amazing. Now, we do have some interesting topics here that are coming up in the chat box. I'm going to go right down our esteemed panel. Jay, I'm going to start with you first here. Great question by Mr. 508er. It says, how hard will it be to handicap after a long layoff there, Jay?
Man, very tough. Like I say, it would definitely be interesting to see if they gave him like a little practice time to get ready. Obviously, they would be crunched for time, but be interesting to see if they gave him like a week, maybe a few days, something. You got to give some type of little training. Another, in my opinion, you have to do another little mini training camp or something just to get guys back in shape, get some chemistry back. People are out of sorts right now. Everybody's self-quarantined pretty much at the house. I see some players getting together, but really no more than 3. It's not like you can have team gatherings or anything like that. So I think you got to have at least a week or 2 that you have to try to cram in a lot of practice time and training and getting back into shape, man. A lot of people are probably starting to get some nice little beer bellies out there, man. They're doing all type of stuff. They're sitting at the house and ain't much to do, man. So I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Everybody's stuck at the house pretty much. So that's the way I see it. But yeah, you have to. You're definitely going to have to get back in shape, man. I know I'm going to have to as well.
I mean, it's interesting, Ian, when you bring it up, because I always call myself a procrastinating type of bettor. I like to see the numbers, but I also like to see it play out on the field for a little bit. And we're going to start up right away with not a lot of time to prepare, where you say, Ian, you're looking at an 80-game hockey season, right? So you say, all right, let me take off the first week or 2. You missed like 7 games, but now we're talking about going ahead. You might only have 7 games. So talk about this long layoff and how you might approach, like, just say the National Hockey League trying to jump right back in when they say, all right, we're going ahead. Here's the playoffs. Everybody out on the ice.
Well, and that's the thing. In terms of the question that was asked, how hard will it be to handicap after a long layoff? To me, there's always nuances and elements of every game during the course of a season in every sport that's difficult in some way to handicap. There is. In terms of will it be difficult for me, I think it's going to be difficult for me in terms of I've got to get back in the routine. I've got to get back into the flow of doing this again on a daily basis. I don't think in terms of are the games itself and the leagues themselves going to be harder, more difficult to handicap, or are the edges, as Teddy mentioned, going to be harder to come by, harder to find? I think it depends on a lot of circumstances. The rust, you have to remember, people saying the rust factor, the teams having been off for so long, everybody's in the same boat, every team and every player. So to me, I still go back and look at things that make sense. I look at the matchups, the individual. Does this team match up stylistically better with the team they're facing? I'm still going to use the fundamental handicapping thoughts, principles, factors that I've used for years. So, yeah, I mean, to me, handicapping the games, I don't think handicapping the games and the leagues when they return, based on the circumstances we're in, is going to be more difficult. In terms of me getting back into my regimen, my routine, I think that's the thing, for me at least, that's going to be a bit more difficult.
Yeah, Teddy, when we take a look, I mean, you've been doing this a long time. Many of us have been in the game and trying to get through and trying to find some edges here. But of always being handicappers, we are looking for edges, which just is one of those things where you have this long layoff and wait a second. Joel Embiid was 268 pounds when he left. He's 301 now. There are some edges you might be able to get by reading the tea leaves, because some of these coaches, just by nature, are honest. Long layoffs, getting back into it. Could there be an advantage for us, Teddy, when this all of a sudden gets going, when it ever does?
So my initial reaction, first of all, great question, because honestly, there's not a question that I spent more time thinking about over the last 2 weeks than what's this going to look like from a handicapping standpoint when we get back. So it's a great question, and I appreciate you picking that one out first, Donnie, because I don't think there's a more important question we can answer. The thing that we are looking to avoid, what we don't want, is randomness, complete randomness. Team plays here this night, then they play here the next night, where your dots are scattered all over the place in terms of level of production. And there's a chance that we may see some randomness coming out of the gate. All that said, the basic concepts, and I've had a couple of long talks with other handicappers, like, how are we going to do this? Oh my God, everyone's biting their nails. And at the end of it, the thought process is, look, I've survived in this business since the 90s because I can make adjustments on the fly. When we see the games come back, I'm not saying day one you're going to be loading up. All right, hey, here's a full slate. Let's bet 15 games today. I don't expect that. But within a week or 10 days of the games being back, we're going to have hot teams to ride. We're going to have cold teams to fade. And we're going to have, let's not forget this, the wise guys, the advanced metrics guys, the guys that move the numbers, the guys that make the markets, they're still going to be working off of database sets. All right. They're going to be working off of data from COVID-19.
Pre-hiatus, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I'm thinking this is who's setting the markets, are the guys who are looking at data that, frankly, I don't think is going to be that valid coming out of the gate. If they're setting the markets, those are markets maybe we can beat if we're paying attention to what's going on night in, night out, and if we get some level of consistency from these teams. And again, I'm not asking every team to be that way, but if we can find a handful of teams that are up or down from where they were supposed to be or where the numbers say they were going to be, those are teams we can ride again and again, betting on or against. So that's my whole game plan coming out of this is take a breath, pay attention, watch these games like a hawk, and then find your teams that are bet on, find your teams that are bet against, and let's roll. So that's my 2 cents. That's how I plan on approaching it coming out.
No, it's great advice, Teddy, because I know a lot of us look at different things, and one of the things that we like to look at are just certain situations. Like, Jay, if we take a look at this team's covered 7 of 8 games their last time their trips into Denver, 7 of 8 games at home, or they're 13-2 against a certain conference, they've won their last 5 games. All that gets thrown out because even when we're taking a look at other sports, let's just say per se Major League Baseball, you have to start to adjust your numbers because the pitcher was really good in his first 3 starts in April. Doesn't mean those same type of derivatives are going to come up late in August. When you reopen the season, Jay, just from a numbers perspective, because we're going to get the eye test, we're going to read into some information, but some of those numbers that Teddy talks about, they might be completely askew on what actually matters in the moment and knowing the game and how it plays out, because a lot of the times when these leagues start up, Jay, you might be talking about that gut instinct, like, you know what, this team should be ready to go. They're a bunch of vets. This coach has done it before. A lot of that stuff comes into play here, Jay.
Exactly, and I really like what Ian said there. It's really just going to be all about matchups. That's how I go about the games. I mean, really doesn't. I could look at something that's 2 weeks ahead. I'm just looking at the matchups, man. Looking at the teams. Obviously, we already know the teams and the players how they play. Obviously, it'll be a tricky cap on how they will look, how if they'll be all on their P's and Q's right away when they get back. But as far as just the matchup wise, I'm looking at the teams. I'm looking at the coaches. I'm looking at who has the advantage, who has the edge. Obviously, the line obviously makes the biggest difference because it could be someone getting 9-10 points. I'm like, hey, I'm looking towards getting the dog here. We don't know what's going to happen. So it just depends on which type of matchup it is. But I like to look at it game by game situation. That's sometimes really, even when everything was regular, a lot of times you can't really look at trends in the numbers. Sometimes you have to look at the situational spots. And I think we really pretty much every game would be a situational spot if we got back. And it would be, I want to know, Donnie, I got a question for Teddy.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you think? What do you think? Because I hadn't got a chance to talk with Teddy about this. What do you think, Teddy? Do you think they're gonna have some regular season games? A few regular season games? It's teams like the Warriors said they don't even want to come back and play. They know that their season's over. They don't really have anything to play for. Or you think they'll go straight to the playoffs?
Shut up down.
Teddy?
We don't need to see those guys. I hear you.
Yeah. So the chances of us seeing a regular NBA season with games and arenas and as nil. Okay. The chance of us seeing some kind of a season, and they're talking about Vegas. Yeah. Which means I'm going to be at some of these games if they have them. But they're talking about a season, an abbreviated end of the regular season in Vegas, and then maybe even the playoffs here in one venue. I love the concept. But in terms of, I lost your question, Jay. What was exactly the question you were asking?
No, I was just saying, do you think that they would play some regular season games when they got back? Like, say, you think they would do a few regular season games, or you think they would just take the playoff teams as of now, 1 through 8, and start the playoffs?
All depends on time. If it's so the theory is the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be the worst. It's going to be ugly, and then in theory we'll be on the other side of this, and in theory we'll start talking about coming back. And in theory, all in theory, but if we're talking July 4th, and I would think there'd be at least something before the start of the playoffs, whether it's 5 games, 7 games, 3 games, something to get the guys into shape and to play for those last few spots or whatever it is. So I do think we'll see something like that in terms of regular season games before some type of a postseason. But all of this is assuming that we can find a way to get back on the court. Right now, we're not close.
Who, by the way, I'm going to ask the panel here. Who do you think, or what sport would be the easiest? Forget about like golf. Let's talk about the team sports here. NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA, those type of sports that we're looking at here. Which is the easiest to get back? I mean, obviously, we're going to have logistical problems and teams got to get back together. But who can actually do it the fastest, do you think? Who could be like, you know what, let's assemble the team. In a couple of days, we can actually start playing games. Who would you think would be first? Jay, I'll start with you first. NBA, NHL, MLB. In your eyes, who do you think could get out there the quickest and be like, you know what, we can resume this right away and get going now?
Honestly, I would say probably baseball. That's just me. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I would say that's something that would go along with the social distancing. Like, say, I know, I think Jeff made a good point yesterday, or maybe it was Junior. When we get back to normal, we don't know if, if we did, we don't know if it could be another outbreak or something like that. So I think with baseball, the way that people are spaced out, there wouldn't be a bad thing right there at all.
Yeah, I would actually lean, Jay, towards the NBA a little bit. Ian, yourself, I know watching hockey, we're talking about getting your skating legs under you and getting back into it. The good part about it is, which basketball, you do have to be in great shape because you're running the entire game. But in hockey, yes, it is a tough effort, but at least you get some line shifts during the game where if you're, want to breathe, you can come out of the game. In the NBA, you can't hide. Jay will tell you, look, man, if you're gassed on defense, they're going to find you and just abuse you until you get you off the court here. Your eyes here, Ian, who can get back the fastest and get that somewhat semblance of really good play? What league is that?
I think MLB, NBA, NHL in that order. And there's now the NBA, of course, you're right. Up and down the court, if you're running full court up-tempo basketball for 48 minutes, that's not going to be easy. You got to run up and down the court. You mentioned Joel Embiid. What if, in a hypothetical scenario, he's 300 pounds? Well, guess what? Brett Brown, the Sixers go up and down. So he's going to be able to get up and down the floor at the usual clip that he can under different pounds, I guess you could say, or weight. That remains to be seen. But there's all kinds of situations that you have to monitor. And one thing I want to point out, too, in terms of when these leagues return and the hiatus ends, it's never going to be more important from a handicapping perspective to read up everything you can about these teams and these players in terms of individual player health, team health, when the games return, mental health. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but could you see teams that have maybe a player or two that's been battling some kind of mental illness or mental health strain or difficulties that they've maybe had to endure or had during this pandemic and this hiatus? It's not you can't rule it out. It's not without question that you might hear of some stories like that, players battling some mental health difficulties and issues off the court, off the ice, off the field, whatever the case may be. So I think one of the things as handicappers you want to do when the leagues return is make sure you're really keeping an eye on individual player health, overall team health situations. And we're not talking injuries now. We're talking in relation to the virus, in terms of their mental health. We're talking about all of those situations that could impact teams when we return to play.
No, it's great points. And Teddy, there's always a business side. I mean, that's what we really look forward to. And what these guys get paychecks and the arena guys get paid and the owners get paid and the big TV contracts all stems from this. Leagues crack and there's a lot of pressure. We're still relatively new in this, only about 2 to 3 weeks into it. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, when those players' checks stop for these pro players, when the revenue doesn't come in from the arenas, from the parking, from the concessions, the beer, the alcohol, the suites, who do you think, and I don't even know if I can use the terminology right, like which league actually would crack first? Who do you think, because to me, it's the NHL, I think, is hanging on, not because they're not profitable, but they can't lose the home dates. So even like the Philadelphia Flyers for years here in Philadelphia, Teddy, always the highest ticket. Why? Because they could fill the arena, but that's where they got the majority of their money. Which league would you say would crack first under pressure, saying, look, hey, we see the curve, it's coming back down. We really need to get started here for financial feasibility for the future. What league is that for you, Teddy?
So the NHL would come to mind, absolutely. The basketball owners are really rich, and the baseball owners are really rich, and the NHL owners aren't as rich. Okay?
Yeah, true.
I mean, flat out. The basketball players make $30 million a year. The baseball players make $30 million a year. The NHL players don't. So both from the owners and from the players, one would think that the urgency to return is for the NHL. However, when we come back, those first games, it has nothing to do with how many tickets you can sell. It has everything to do with how many eyeballs you can get on TV, because there's no sports programming on TV. Whatever sports programming comes is going to attract fairly high ratings, one would think. And hockey doesn't draw the same way, it just doesn't. So it's not about filling the seats in the arena. It's about getting the eyeballs on TV, which doesn't necessarily bode well for hockey. Of the three, I would think that the NHL would be in the most dire straits sooner.
Yeah, I'll jump in there, Donnie.
I would tend to agree with that. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
And to say I agree. There's a reason that Gary Bettman is doing a bi-weekly update on the status of the NHL season. Every 2 weeks, he's like, okay, we'll extend it for another 2 weeks. Oh, we'll extend the hiatus for another 2 weeks. Oh, we'll tell NHL players to self-isolate in their home cities for another 2 weeks. There's a reason he's only doing it, updating it every 2 weeks, because Gary Bettman is desperate. He's trying to hang on to any glimmer of hope. He's living on a prayer, like Bon Jovi would say right now, that NHL hockey will return sooner rather than later at this point in time. I mean, this guy, the NHL, think about it from a revenue stream perspective. You got the NBA where they've got players with all these shoe deals and endorsement deals left and right. Well, NHL players don't have as much of that, so they're not getting money to the league for that kind of stuff quite as much. The television is huge for the league. There's a reason why the television deals have been so important. These games with the NBC networks, they're missing out on those right now. And as Teddy mentioned, the NFL and NBA owners, from how much money they make in those leagues, they're making a hell of a lot more than the NHL. So Gary Bettman, that's why every 2 weeks, I think that's a clear indication of the NHL being the league that's more eager than anyone and more probably in need than anyone to get their league and their season restarted, because Gary Bettman is on this ridiculous, nonsensical timetable that we update people every 2 weeks. What are you talking about, Gary? We're talking about maybe August or September that we get sports back, and likely with no fans. Likely with no fans in the arenas or the stadiums when we do get sports back. I know you're desperate. You need the league back. You're hemorrhaging money. They're hemorrhaging money right now, big time, the National Hockey League. And I know he wants it back desperately. It's terrible financially for the league, but you got to be realistic. This is going to be a longer hiatus, not a shorter one.
I'm taking the under August. Yeah. I'm for again, what we're hearing now is the country's going to reopen in May, and we'll see something, we'll see training camps or something in June. Or retraining camps or something of some kind, and we'll see some kind of sports. I mean, it's the optimistic time frame, and we'll see sports on or before July 4th. That's possible. Now, with fans, it's not possible, but to see something in June or July, I think is very realistic, because the cash crunch is only beginning for these guys. As the cash crunch gets more significant, they'll find ways. We're talking about many billions of dollars in revenue, and that type of money, you can suck it up for a week or two. You can suck it up for a month or two. You can't suck it up indefinitely. We'll see something this spring.
Plus, Teddy, I'll throw one more thing out there. You've got guys like Dana White. They're one step away from calling me to have the UFC in my backyard at this point. They'll do anything right now.
Small site.
How about me and you, Ian? A UFC little grudge match? I think we can use a fair match.
Hey, I bet on it.
So
I bet on it. I'm telling you right now, I have some money
down on it. Who's the chalk?
Backyard wrestling DVDs from back in the day. Sure, man. Come on.
Who's the chalk? Ian's got to be the chalk. He's got 15 years on me at least.
Yeah, he's younger, but hey, the dog might be where the cash is. You never know, man. You never know. It's all you got to look at it from all different angles.
Jay, if you're betting on me in any fight, you're losing your money.
And you got to hope my heart, my guts,
I'm not itching to make any bets right now, man. Even when we had action, I'm not one to force bets. If I really like something, I'm gonna bet on it. I don't like losing my money, man. So, like Donnie said, with me not having wages, it's not the part that's bothering me. It's really obviously not doing the show and all this stuff that's really bothering me. But as far as just the wagers, not making the wagers, I can't say I hadn't been this less stressful in a while, man. I'm talking about in a while. I hadn't had any stress as far as that, as far as sweating games or wondering, winning or losing games. I like when I win. I just don't really. I hate it when I lose, which I'm sure none of us do. But yeah, with everybody's missing money right now, man. It's not just us. It's a lot of people miss a lot of money out there. That's really the least of some people's worries. They're trying not to get sick. But as far as the sporting events getting back, hopefully we'll see something here pretty soon, like Teddy say, by June, July, and then obviously it probably won't be with fans at first. But hey, as long as we get the get back going, man, so you got to take baby steps, man. You got to crawl before you walk, man. But all of the leagues are losing money right now, including the NBA players, even the ones that got big money, because you used to making that money, used to those checks rolling in. At some point, they're going to get cut down or stop. You're not playing games right now. It's tough to keep paying everybody, all these full-time employees. People starting to lose jobs, man. So it's a tough time right now. I'm hoping everything gets back to normal, at least a little bit here pretty soon.
Yeah, we are here right here at SBRodds.com and sportsbookreview.com. This is what we like to do. Again, we're just four guys. We like to talk gambling and bring everything to you, keeping the content alive, as well as like to joke in this industry behind the scenes. You make your real money in down times like this. It can show that you can certainly put on a show, give quality content, which is what we're striving to do here, especially with these roundtable videos. Even though stuff's not going on the field, we're still going to give some prognostications of when it can get back and have that obviously hope out there. But here's a topic I really want to talk about because this is interesting. Jay, I'm going to start with you first. And we're going to pertain to the NBA. Let's just say everything goes well with the virus. We don't have a cure yet, but it calms down. And let's just start a target date. July 15th, the NBA gets underway. And we have just a playoff format, all 16 teams. Let's just say they shorten the series down to maybe 3 games or 5 games and go 2 or 3 weeks and everything is fine. What happens when one player tests positive for the virus and he's been in contact with not only his team, but the last 2 playoff series, and now you have to shut the league down altogether? That is a nightmare scenario, which I know every league is trying to avoid. But can you imagine, Jay, that happening, just the chaos that it would throw it into? You just have to shut it down completely and say, you know what? We need to be off maybe another 60 days till this gets right.
Exactly. That would definitely throw a whole nother curve into it. Obviously, I mean, we might be on lockdown once again, man, for even longer. So obviously it'll be a scary thing. But one thing I can't say is positive. The NBA players starting to become symptom free. Christian Wood, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, all the Nets players, everybody has been symptom free, been cleared of the coronavirus. So I think that's a good sign. But like you say, definitely have to be cautious and careful for whenever things do get back to normal, because they could go right back to it could get even worse, even quicker. So we saw how quick this happened. Hopefully we can that's why I say sometimes it pays to be a little patient. I know it's tough sometimes, and I'm not one of the most patient persons, but hopefully we can be patient enough, wait it out, then it'll die out, or we have enough, have a cure for it or something like that, man. I'm just trying to remain positive. Hoping. I know there's some people out there, a lot of people I know acting like it's the end of the world and shit, man. So I'm just trying to remain positive, try not to go crazy, have a mental breakdown, all of that stuff, man. But hopefully everything gets back going to normal. But yeah, I definitely think they would shorten the series up, and that's what I would do, man. If I was Adam Silver, I'd just go straight to the playoffs, man. I would give the team some time to practice, but hey, the team, if you didn't make the playoffs already, a lot of teams, you don't really have a chance. 2-3 games ain't gonna really make too much of a difference. Players like the Warriors, they might sit everybody, man. They might have eight just 7 guys out there, man. I can see it because they don't even. Steve Kerr probably like, I'm already on vacation mode. We send Brown in there, Mike Brown in there to coach. I'll just take off, man. But I could definitely see it. But yeah, I'm itching for some NBA, man. I can't say.
No, it's wild stuff out there. Ian, we bet baseball. Teddy, we bet baseball. And I know, Jay Money, you probably check in on it as well. Well, one of the questions in the key chat box, Clark Jenkins, impossible for MLB to get in 162. And I agree that we're probably going to have a tame season. Do you have fans in there? Can you fit things in? But the one thing I want to ask the panel also as we roll through is, do you damage the next season to save this season? I think we all know where I'm going here. Like, if we're the NHL, yes, we want to see a Stanley Cup. If the NBA, my goodness, who doesn't want to see the Clippers and the Lakers go head-to-head? Or even in Major League Baseball, that grind of your rivals going toe-to-toe. But do you want to say, hey, let's get going in August, and then we're going to skip September, and these guys need a break, and now we shift back to Christmas? I don't think anybody wants to see this season salvage and destruction of the following season, but money talks a lot of the times here. Ian, I'll bring you in here. Like, you're a supreme hockey fan. We get that. But do you want to see this maybe say, hey, let's take extra advantage and roll the Stanley Cup into September? Does that be possible?
It's great you mentioned September, Donnie, because I think that if we get to a point where it hasn't returned by September 1st, by Labor Day, essentially, they're going to look toward next season and say, that's it. We're shutting it down in terms of this season. I think it's impossible to have a good enough, integral enough season next year if you're still looking at finishing off this current season, September and beyond. So I think August is the cutoff month for the NHL. It might be that way for the NBA as well, where if things aren't back up and running by August at the very latest, I think they might scrap this season and just say it's too much of a risk to putting next season in bad shape, that we're just going to go ahead to next season. And I know in certain parts of the U.S., I know Texas, Florida, for instance, they've been slow, ordering the stay-at-home methods, and hotspots have been the popular word, to describe this pandemic in the United States. People using the word hotspots like New York City, New Orleans, places that have been really battling this and hit hardest by it. Well, in terms of hotspots, when it comes to football hotspots, Texas and Florida are right up there near the top. So maybe you need to tell people down there, hey, stay home. Do you want football season next year? Do you want NFL? Do you want college football? You're the football hotbeds, Texas, Florida. Take it easy down there. No beach parties. Let's lay low for a little bit.
Yeah, Teddy, chime in on this. And we talk about these sports leagues getting underway, damaging maybe the next season or pushing it way back, like the NBA actually starting their season on Christmas Day. We should be hearing about some good stuff here, Teddy, like record-breaking, entries into the Super Contest and all the good things that we have coming up, which we're not hearing. But talk about maybe from a sports league's perspective is saying, look, we really want to show who our champion is, but that doesn't mean we need to damage and corrupt a whole, 82-game season for the following year here.
Well, I mean, everything we've heard and know is that the next 12 to 18 months are going to be weird in one way or another. All right. So if I'm, whether it's, whatever commissioner, Silver or Bettman or Manfred, doesn't matter, and I can get something in to salvage this season, I would push next year back. Absolutely. And in particular, you talked about the NBA starting at Christmas. Of the three leagues, the NBA, in my mind, is the one with the most flexibility to come back late, to start next season late. I mean, they could start next season at Christmas. The NBA could have their finals in August as opposed to June. And in theory, it wouldn't kill them, So I wouldn't be shocked at all to see the NBA try harder than hockey or baseball to get something of this season in, even if it means pushing back to next year, even if it means pushing back next season.
It's crazy.
We
really
is
don't know
wild.
What
we're going to look like in a month from now. And right now, we're still early on this curve. We'll have a much better idea a month from now what we're looking like. If we're seeing the numbers flat and coming back down, we'll have sports of some sort this fall. We will. If they're not, then it's a whole nother story entirely.
Yeah, I hope it does return to get back to normal. But sometimes, Teddy, those simple pleasures that creep back into our life is really what we look forward to. And just using stuff like ESPN, like just the movement of saying like, oh my goodness, they are going to move the Jordan series up and we can't wait. That's what I'm looking forward to. When does this start? Like, I can't watch enough Netflix right now. The top 10 on Netflix that shows up, I'm watching stuff that I never would have watched in my entire life. Like normally I myself, like we're embedded, we're watching, who's going to win tonight in the Elite Eight or the Final Four, the championship. We're getting ready for the playoffs in multiple sports, the NFL draft coming up. I'm watching Tiger King and loving life like it's the only thing I got going on. Talk about a little bit from your day-to-day now. Those simple, like I walk my dog now. I don't have any reference. Like I got to walk the dog now, got to get back for a show. After I get done the show, got to go get the kid at the school, got to pick her back up. Then I got to put some plays out. We're all going through the same type of things. Jay, just your normal day-to-day now. I'm just looking at Netflix. Oh, what am I going to watch tonight? Hey, hon, what's for dinner tonight? That's what I look forward to now.
Yeah, I can't say a lot of people's dogs, I'm sure, are very happy right now. I'm sure, man, because my dog, he gets walked at least 3 times a day, man. He's getting played with out there. It's not really a whole lot else to do, man. But yeah, definitely. I mean, they didn't close the end. To mention your point, down here in Texas, I mean, so a lot of people, it's still people moving around, but for the most part, everything is closed. We was out yesterday, and I told my girl, I say, man, this looks like Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day. I mean, because all the stores are closed and stuff. All the restaurants, you can only do from curbside or whatever to the drive-through. Everything else, if it's not an essential business, it's closed, man. So, I mean, they did have the liquor stores open for a while. I think they even finna close those for the next month, man, because those are being too packed, man. It's tough to social distancing when the liquor stores are packed. But just my daily like I say, walking the dog, helping my son with his schoolwork, man, watching movies like you say, Donnie. I didn't see all the movies on Netflix, man, Amazon Prime. I got AT&T watching all the movies, man. So yeah, just trying to watch some old sports, man. You know what I'm saying? Doing a bit of medicating, just trying to stay above water, man. Just like I say, just chilling out. I can't say I don't really miss, not like Teddy say, man. There's always gonna be a back of my head. I don't miss not just stressing them games, man, down to the minute, sweating them. I can't say I don't miss that, man. But I really miss doing the show. I can't stress it enough, man. And I'm honored to be on here with you guys as well, man. I used to watch all you guys show, man. Ian, Teddy, and Donnie, all you guys, even Jeff as well. When you used to do the show with Jeff, Donnie, I watched all you guys, man. So it's an honor for me to be on here with you guys, man.
No, it's great. I appreciate that because I think it's very well mutual here. We've all been in this business. We've all watched people. We've all learned. We've all practiced. We've all struggled on camera from time to time. It happens, especially when we do stuff live here. But my only thing that I get upset about, Jay, is I missed you by one day down in Miami when we all got together for that show out. So one day we'll certainly meet up. We'll have some fun with that. But keeping it moving, Ian, up north, look. The day-to-day activities are kind of odd for me now because like sometimes like it's almost like I'm getting my battle gear on when I have to actually go to the food store to get something, or even the local stuff. Like we have Wawa here locally, which would be the equivalent of 7-Elevens across the country. It's an eerie feeling you never thought about before grabbing the door handle. I never thought about pulling up, getting the shopping cart where it's got to be sanitized down, going through day-to-day, or hey, I'm passing this guy in the aisle. Boy, he's a little bit too close to me. Everything has changed here from sports just to everyday life of how you just get on and wake up in the morning at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to do different. Again, I'm used to doing the same thing for 8 years, handicapping games, watching sports. I don't have that right now. The best advice I can give to people, because again, there are going to be people that are going to get depressed based on what's going on and the situation they're in, can't go anywhere, can't see people as much as they have. What are we going to do to pass the time? Stay busy. It's the best advice I have to people at this time. Don't watch news 24/7. Don't just sit there like a lump on the couch there for 6 hours reading all this horror stories and sad sob stories and the world's coming to an end and crashing down around us. You can't do that. It's going to drag your spirits down. It's going to put you in a mindset that you don't want to be in. Get out, walk for an hour a day like I do. I go for a nice little walk around the area where I'm in, and I've never seen as many. Now, they're all social distancing. I do want to point out that. Now, when I'm walking up the street, it's funny. There's people that'll they'll basically walk on the road. Of course, there's not many cars these days. They'll walk on the road to keep that social distance when I'm out walking, and I appreciate that. And all I do is I still smile. It's trying to be positive, a little nice little, hello, good to see you there when I'm walking by, but we're doing our part there. Play video games, play board games, challenge yourself mentally, intellectually. Keep your brain fresh, keep your brain stimulated and going. Do things that make you think. Do things that keep you thinking about things that are going to keep your brain in the kind of position you want it to be in when ultimately sports return and we're handicapping again. It's going to keep ourselves in good mindsets, but stay active. Don't just sit there and watch the news. That's the worst thing, because I know a friend of mine, he says, Ian, I've been watching the news. All I've been doing is basically watching the news, staying updated. That's the last thing you want to do, I say to him, because all they're going to basically report is how things are at their worst and how this coronavirus is getting worse in terms of its impact on Canada and the United States. Keep your brain fresh. Be active physically. Do things that challenge your mind. These are some of the best things I think anybody could do at a time like this, because you need and watching the news 24/7. Sorry, I can't do it. I won't do it. You got to find better ways, healthier ways to use your time than that.
Teddy, I want to bring you in on this because we all see like the still pictures, right? From Times Square, which, I'm about an hour and a half away from New York City. But one of the most ominous ones by far is we've all been to Las Vegas. Seeing Las Vegas Boulevard shut down, casinos dark, not that party atmosphere really settles in. Heck, Teddy, I even see like still pictures on Twitter where I don't know what the date is. Like, it doesn't look like they're separating 6 feet from each other at this point now. But Las Vegas, the bastion of partying, gambling, having fun, where you go to Las Vegas to not live your day to day like, I'm on vacation, let's live it up. It's amazing to see not a single car on some of those still shots. It's amazing. Teddy, you're out there. Talk a little bit about it.
So, I mean, the weird thing to me is that it doesn't feel surreal. I've been to the Strip a handful of times now. I went the night that it closed. I wanted to see what it was like, and I didn't get out of the car, but I drove up and down the Strip for a while, just to see and to feel. But once you see the picture of Times Square and once you see wherever this airport's empty, and all right, the strip's closed too. I mean, it's the surrealness of that has faded relatively quickly for me. And it's not like I'm on the strip every day anyway. When you're in Vegas, you're a local, you go down to the strip when you have an event to go down to the strip to, or you're meeting someone who's coming into town, or you have to go speak somewhere, or whatever it is. I mean, even to make my bets, I'm not going on the strip. I do that. I'm on the phone. So it's not like I'm driving around on the strip every day. But so I guess from a surreal element, it is surreal, but it gets realer every day. I mean, it just is what it is right now. I'm not. It freaked me out the first night, but now I guess I'm a little bit more used to it.
No, and you bring up some great points in there, and we're all in the same boat where you're learning something new day to day, and it almost is like, you try to structure like, hey, it's April 3rd. Oh, yeah, baseball season here. It's almost like you have a new like sundial in your life where you're saying like, all right, well, what am I going to do today? What did I used to do today? Because our regiments are certainly so changed. But, we have a couple minutes left to spend. Again, we can't thank you guys enough for coming on in the chat box. It just gives us a chance to alleviate some of the pressure that we have, and we can get a nice live talk. We're not structured going back and forth. But sooner or later, sports will get back on the field, but it's just hard to see that sort of finish line right now to keep us standard, because I know, Jay, when we start talking about saying the NBA just cut a date, they think they can get going by July 15th, everything then shifts back in your mind almost into Capra mode. Like, all right, you take a look at the standings. You start reading what they're going to do. It's going to be home games, away games. Are they just going to be in Las Vegas? Are they going to be in Madison Square Garden? What's the format? Just to get us going. But it's nice that you guys come in and talk with us here. And even the panel itself, just having that live go back and forth where it rings from SBR. It says, hey, look, the show's coming on. Hey, guys, how you doing today? That keeps us moving forward now. But talk about, Jay, like when the preparation changes, that mindset gets back. Like, you know what? We're really going to get sports back in our life, and how good that's going to eventually be.
Exactly. And I was telling someone this other day that it's pretty much this. So my life really didn't change. Like I said, I stay in the house all the time anyway, but it's like the off season came too quick for me. That's exactly what happened. It's like the off season came because this is exactly what would be happening. Told myself I wasn't going to bet anything else. It's just NBA. I would just be leaving the house, just rolling around every once in a while, then going back to the house and watching. I'd probably be watching this. I'll be watching the hell out of some baseball right now, man. But regardless, man, I mean, when it gets back going, obviously I'm gonna be excited. But like you say, whenever we see if there's gonna be a regular season or not, I'm just gonna be starting to crunch everything. We can go back and look at whatever we want. It's really gonna be all about, like I say, matchups, game to game. Who's gonna be playing? Like I say, look to see which players and gain some weight. Who's gonna be ready to go? Which I know which player this is. Everybody's ready to go right now. But I'm gonna be super excited. But it's not really a whole lot we can go off of that happened pre hiatus that we could look towards. I mean, maybe. Like I say, everything that with NBA is really up here, stuck in your head. Teddy knows. I mean, the games that you watch, the players, the coaches, how everybody's going to come out of this with their mentality, who's going to care, who's not. So, like I say, that's why I would like to go straight to the playoffs. Everybody's going to give a damn for sure, man. But I'll be ready to go, man. Definitely have to dive into some little local newspapers and stuff. But I would be super excited, man.
Yeah, no, we're going to go right down the panel with this quick question here as well, because we all know where we were, Jay. I'll start with you first. Like, what did you think was going to happen here? Because remember we saw like Rudy Gobert, with joking, hey, didn't wash his hands and was touching microphones, and I wonder where this will go. They're going to shut it down. And then you get the tweets the very next day where the Ivy League is shutting it down. And I'm saying like, hey, give it a couple days here. It's going to get better. We can push back the NCAA tournament 4 or 5 days and get it going here. What were your initial thoughts on what you thought were going to happen? Because to be honest, we've never seen it. And we're sitting here weeks later with anything else of a horizon out there that says, hey, we're getting back to started. What was your initial thoughts here, Jay, when everything started to go down?
Honestly, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. My initial thoughts were they were acting like if people caught the virus that they were going to die. So that's my initial thoughts. And then, like I say, when players started to be cleared of it, I'm thinking, as of now, I'm thinking that things are going a little bit better than I initially planned. I thought that this could be going on a lot longer. Like I said, I didn't expect for a whole nother month to be laid down, but even maybe after this month, maybe things will get a little bit better. I'm seeing some places saying no new cases. We seeing places these people starting to get better over this. We seeing ways how to kill the virus, temperature too low or too high, check people's temperature. So I honestly thought that it was going to be a whole lot worse. They were acting like if you caught it, then you was going to die eventually or something, man. So we actually saw people being cleared of it. So I think that that's a good thing going forward. I feel like that has me remaining positive, in my opinion.
No, I'm always the eternal optimist here. Now, one thing is to get back sooner than later. Ian, like all of us, we're in the same business here. And it's kind of interesting because when it all went down, you saw the NBA. Well, that's the NBA. And then I saw the NCAA. But Ian, from a business perspective, which I'm going to get Teddy's input on this as well, is it actually didn't ring in for about 10 to 12 hours when I woke up the next day. I'm like, oh, my goodness, like my business and my livelihood, like because you're looking at it from a sports fanatic standpoint as opposed to like you make money in this industry. Oh, my goodness, sports on here. Then it clicks in, real life sets in and says a good portion of my income is now going to be shut off. Oh, my goodness. Talk about that whole process from being a handicapper and just being in the business where this is our livelihood. Yeah, we love sports, but yes, we put food on the table and pay bills with this stuff.
100%. Donnie, and other than the fact that this shutdown has given me time to work on updating my music library, because I'm an absolute music buff and music fanatic and always have been. Other than that, there's not many positives other than that to basically be happy about what's going on here. I mean, you're right. This is income for all of us. I don't have a second job to fall back on. I don't. This is essentially what I'm doing 24/7. I can't just go out there and all of a sudden say, I'm going to do this now for a career until this thing resumes. So, scaling back on, on-air opportunities has hurt. Obviously, from a client's perspective, you're getting hurt for me in that sense. It's a situation where you're not making money. You can't place bets. You can't improve your bankroll because there's nothing to bet right now. And like I said earlier, I'm not going to fool people into thinking I'm a Nicaraguan soccer expert when I couldn't give two shits about that sport or that league, for instance. So, it's just one of those situations where you got to bide your time. Hopefully, government aid at both sides of the border, Canada, U.S., rely on that to get you by. Get your income wherever you can, like being on SBR on a day like today, other, writing articles. I'm still doing that for a couple of sites as well. It's just finding ways to get you through these 3-4 months. And hopefully people have been good in terms of their savings. They've been saving their money, investing their money in the last few years, that they've put themselves in a position where they've got some for emergency situations such as this, and thankfully I do. I've been investing in RRSP, mutual fund type of investment with my bank for years, so that's helping. But boy, if this goes on extremely long, then yeah, I'm going to be pushed. I'm going to be pushed to my brink, where I'm going to be really, really concerned about financially where I go from here. So that's definitely the thing that I'm fearful of the most. And when you look at the coronavirus and how it's been impacting the world, I mean, I'll say this and I'll say this again. I know a lot of people are wondering, how long is this going to be? And I still refuse to put a definitive timetable with a definitive answer on it. I've said this a million times already. You can't put a timetable on a pandemic such as this. It's really, really difficult to pinpoint when we're going to get back to sports. Donnie, I know you're going to throw it back to Teddy to answer this question, but I want to throw out Clark's question, because Teddy's the best person to answer this question by far. Clark Jenkins, great question. And Teddy, of course, the perfect person to answer it. How long can Vegas go without casino revenue? Teddy, how's the situation with Las Vegas casinos?
So they're saying that the country is in recession right now. Las Vegas is not in recession. Okay, Las Vegas in depression. Okay, I would say unemployment in this town is right now, and again, off the top of my head, but half the people aren't working. Yeah. At least. So what kind of credit do we have? That's the issue. How long do things stay open? Things go with how much credit you can get. And the casinos have a lot of credit. The state has a lot of credit. The city has a lot of credit. So even if the shutdown lasts, I don't think these buildings will be shuttered permanently. That said, you ask me, what am I more worried about? The virus or the economic effects of the virus? And for me, it's the latter. I can picture, there's a scenario that we can picture in which we're in a global depression next year. And we're like, okay, how are we going to find food to eat, let alone sports? That's, and you don't want to think about that. But to me, that's the broader issue to be fearful of. The virus, scary. the economic impact of the virus has the potential to be devastating. So, for a handicapper, for me, I have a bankroll, okay? And my goal is you don't dip into the bankroll to pay living expenses, ever. If it goes on, I got to dip into the bankroll to pay living expenses. It's just the way it is. My wife isn't working. She worked on the Strip, selling products to salons. The Strip's closed. She's not selling products. There's no salons open right now. So she's not working. I'm not working. Sure, I can last through the summer, no problem. But if there's no football this fall, or football's delayed this fall, it's going to be an economic reckoning for a lot of us. And it's going to mean some hard choices.
It sure as hell will be for me, Teddy. I hear you. Man.
Yeah, no, good. Even when we're taking a look at like the secondary options, right? I don't think we got into this business because we didn't like sports. Like you have to have a passion for something and a love for it because that's what keeps you going. Wins and losses. You wake up every day and the fun of it is saying, hey, look at this football game I got. Look at this NBA game I have. Look at this NHL game I have. But also there's some fallback options where if the times are lean or maybe, you're not working with a certain company or the picks are going, you could drive Uber, you could go, bartend. All those are away now. So it's not like, hey, in this little economic downturn, no big deal. I'll fall back on doing mortgages like I used to do, or I'll just go buy a food institution or a food, takeout spot. Those options aren't available. So we're in the same boat just like everybody else, hoping this gets back to normal and changing everything up. Before we get out of here, let's leave it on a little bit of a high note here. And I'm going to bring you in first here, Jay. Getting back to the normalcy, right? The NBA getting back underway. What are you most waiting for to get back to? I know you love the NBA. As soon as the crack on the horizon is that the door is starting to open back up, what are you most looking forward to once your sport gets underway here, Jay?
Man, I can't wait to get back doing exactly what we're doing right now, man, doing the show. Like I said, I don't even have to place any bets. I'm ready to get back on the camera with Teddy, Jordan. It could be us four. I could go by myself. It could be me and Teddy, Jordan, and Junior, the full crew, man. But I'm ready to get back to doing my show, man. Obviously, it's not a whole lot to talk about with no NBA games, but I'm talking about it could be the day before, and we'll do a show just to talk about how we think people will be in shape, man. So that's the main thing. It could be all bets off, man. I'm just ready to get back to doing my show. That's what I've missed doing. That was really my whole day right there. I got prepped for the show, did the show obviously, and then after that I went to the spot and sat there and did my best till about 6 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I did, man. But the show was the center point of my whole day. I'm just ready to get back into the routine, man.
Ian, for yourself, like myself, what I really enjoy doing is, let's just say I'm watching an NFL game. If anybody's ever followed me on Twitter, I love to live tweet games, but take the pictures and say, this is why this block was missed. I can't believe this call was, and getting the day-to-day back and forth on Twitter, back to sports, as opposed to just some monotonous stuff like, hey, I watched the Tiger King or I watched Ozark this year. I love the back and forth waking up and saying, I can't wait to see the 49ers pass rush get after Aaron Rodgers. Those simple things, Ian, I'm missing. How about you?
Yeah, you know what? I've enjoyed binge watching Breaking Bad these last few weeks. I've already seen it once, and I said it was so good. I'm seeing it again, which I'm doing right now. But that can only go for so long. You're right. That day-to-day doing shows, breaking down games. I have an incredible amount of fun and enjoyment doing that on a daily basis, breaking down games, talking about games. And I always try to put it in a context of, I try to be informative, try to give you good info, but I also try to put some entertainment into what I say. I think it's important to have a little element of that as well. And I miss that. I miss that immensely. I know there's people that are trying to drag me into stock market investing to get me through here these next few. I'm not interested in that. Although it makes sense from a theoretical standpoint, like, what's going to be booming throughout this pandemic? Yeah, your telecommunications companies. Do you invest in Bell and Rogers in Canada? Do you invest in AT&T and CenturyLink and Cox and Spectrum and all those companies in the United States? Possibly. Telecommunications, virtual video conferencing companies, companies that provide that kind of software. It makes sense, obviously, that those companies would be doing a little bit better at a time like this because everybody's crushing internet usage from their homes right now with nowhere to go. But overall, I'm trying to stay out of that. I'm not going to get interested in the stock market, mutual funds. I'm going to stick with what I got and just hope sports comes back sooner rather than later. And I think I could speak for Donnie, for Jay, for Teddy. Let's hope that is sooner rather than later, that we're back to normal in the sports world.
No, you're absolutely right, Ian. I'll bring Teddy in here to sort of close this out. Like, I miss the show. Like, me and Teddy have done a lot of shows, live shows, tape shows, edited shows. And I miss telling Teddy that running backs' lives do matter in the NFL. Like, those fun back and forths are what we live for today, Teddy. Getting back to sports. What do you miss the most? And, once that door is finally opened back up, how much you're going to miss it and really getting back into it here, Teddy?
What I miss the most is arguing with you about how running back. And clearly, if ever there was an offseason that proved that running backs are absolutely replaceable, and the best running back in the NFL is only this much better than a replacement level running back. And look at Austin Eckler getting paid, and look at Melvin Gordon getting cut. I mean, if ever there's a time, this is proven that I'm right. So yeah, I love talking about it. I love arguing about it. But for me, the thing I'm most looking forward to is cashing a winning bet. Okay, right side. I want a right side winner. I want one of these games where I got a +4 dog and they're up by 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's what I'm looking forward to more than anything else. One right side winner gets you all smiles, Donnie. That explains your last name.
Exactly. Yeah, one right side is all you need, especially to host these shows right here on sportsbookreview.com. It's what we love to do. We want to thank you guys for tuning in and just bringing a little bit of levity to the situation. Hopefully we can do this each and every Friday, a nice live panel to talk to the chat box, let you guys know what we're doing, hear from you guys as well. It's what we want to continue to do to uplift your spirits. If you haven't done so yet, as we say, hit that subscribe button. It's red. It's right there in front. Turn on the notifications. Every time we go live or any content comes out across the channels at sportsbookreview.com, you'll get it delivered right away. For my esteemed panel, I do thank you, Jay Money, Ian Cameron, and Teddy Sobransky. I'm Donnie Seymour. Thanks for tuning into the live edition of the Sportsbook View Roundtable. We'll catch you again next Friday live. Take care, guys.